All right, perfect, guys. Welcome. If you want to check the chat, I have posted the slides for today in a handout, just if you want to follow along. And then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. We'll get ready. Can everybody see everything all right? All right, wonderful. So I'm Kristen Wilmoth. I'm the dietetic intern for Wellcats this semester, and I will be presenting on rekindling your nutrition, moving forward in a post-pandemic world. All right, so just a couple of ground rules before we get started. Please just make sure your microphone's muted. And then if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. Amanda will be running that for us, and then we'll get to them at the end. And so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Like I said, I'm Kristen Wilmoth. I'm the current dietetic intern. I'm working towards my master's degree in human health and nutrition. And I got my bachelor's here at Texas State. I had the privilege of working with Wellcats as an undergrad as well, and working with a thesis student who was partnering with them. So I've been intertwined with Wellcats a lot throughout my academic career, and I'm just really excited to be here and excited to be able to give this presentation to y'all today. And then joining me today will be Amanda Hutchinson. She is currently the GA for Wellcats for this whole year. She got her BS in dietetics from University of Northern Colorado. She was a DI she got her dietetic internship at Texas State University. She's currently a registered dietitian and working on her master's here at Texas State. So today we will be talking about the habits formed during the pandemic, and then we'll move into the triumphs, the challenges, and then how we can learn and grow from those challenges that we face. Then we will. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with the habits formed during the pandemic. So to do this, we're just going to have a fun little activity here. Take 2 minutes to go ahead and look through this bingo chart. If you do get a bingo, text it in the chat. Amanda will be managing that. I'm just going to set a little timer here. I know I definitely did a lot of these things during quarantine. I especially watched Tiger King. They're coming out with another one, which should be interesting. I definitely got more sleep by going to bed early. I got to know my neighbors more. My dog was excited because he got extra walks. Have we had any bingos in the chat, Amanda? No, not yet.
Not yet.
More plants for sure.
We have one bingo from Michelle.
Hey, there we go. All right, we're coming up on the last minute here. If you want to get those bingos in. Even if you don't have a bingo, maybe just like say what your favorite activity was during quarantine.
Nice. We have another bingo from Stephanie.
Ooh, there we go.
Nice work, Stephanie.
Very successful quarantine there.
And another bingo from Patty.
Wow.
Everybody's getting those bingos.
Yes. I definitely had to cancel some travel plans. I was scheduled to go to Disney. Bummer there. Not all good things, definitely. Here, we got about 10 more seconds left. Alrighty. So I'm gonna go ahead and show y'all my bingo chart. So as you can see here, I got a couple bingos. I'm quite busy. But I really like this kind of bingo chart here because it shows you different items that may be particular towards your different areas of health. like organizing a drawer, starting a journal, getting plants, meditating. Those are all really important for your mental health. And so maybe we did these activities during quarantine, not really realizing that these are maybe some habits that we started to form, like going to bed early, starting to step outside of our comfort zone and just trying new things, reading more, getting acclimated to changes by canceling travel plans and being able to adapt to those things. Those all really kind of push towards our mental health and training and forming habits that are based on that. And if we look at habits that we might have formed that affect our social health, watching Tiger King, that gave us something to bond over, to talk about, having a family game night, connecting families, making those connections stronger, figuring out how to work Zoom so we can connect in other ways than maybe just face to face. And again, same kind of concept with video calling friends, and then actually talking to new people that we might have not been able to have time to connect with by meeting our neighbors. So all of those kind of like acclimated towards our social health. And then what we're going to kind of focus on today is more of our physical health. So like exercise, eating healthier, those kind of aspects. So learning a TikTok dance, we definitely got up, got moving in maybe ways that we normally don't. Started meal prepping because we had time to do those activities, taking the dog on an extra walk, getting outside more often, getting that extra physical activity in, doing a curbside pickup, finding other ways to be able to access food that we normally wouldn't have thought about or used before. Buying your favorite junk food. Sometimes it's good to be able to have those cravings, satisfy them, and kind of move on and be happy to know that we got satisfied in that way with the junk food. Sat down for a family dinner. Again, that's connecting with your family and taking the time to really slow down, think about your food, connect with one another, and bond over food again. And then baking bread, finding out where like food traditionally comes from. Normally just buy bread at the store, but throughout the pandemic, a lot of grocery stores didn't have bread. And then these other items here that just really help strengthen our physical health throughout the pandemic. So, as we kind of talked about, there are a lot of habits and things that we've formed during the pandemic that might have carried over into this like post-pandemic world. We're going to cover first the triumphs. So, according to research, 53 participants, they found that people were less likely to skip breakfast, including and less likely to eat out, including sit down and takeout restaurants. They consumed less fried food and consumed less fried food. On the flip side, people reported a higher intake of fruits and vegetables. And then other research showed that out of 6,323 respondents, 22.7% of them made healthier choices, and that looked like eating an increase of fruits and vegetables, legumes, and a decrease in snacks that are high in saturated fat and sodium, and then also decreasing the intake of bakery products. And then out of that same respondents, 57.1% of them reported working out 1 to 6 days a week. And then that was probably due to all those TikTok dances, you know, getting more moving in there. And that probably aligns with what they found, that those younger than 30 and older than 50 were more likely to pick up their workout schedule during the pandemic. And then, so again, just to look a little closely to the people that were more likely to cook at home, those were people that were younger in age, had a higher pre-lockdown emotional eating. So they had a little bit more understanding of how the emotions, how they eat when they have different emotions. And we'll kind of go over that a little bit later on in the last section, as well as adaptive coping strategies. People that were more likely to eat at home had higher adaptive coping strategies. And again, that's something that we'll cover towards the end. But as you can see in this pie chart here, those that were more likely to eat at home more than usual during the pandemic is this darker blue. And then the same as usual is this kind of lighter purple, darkish purple. And then in here, less than usual is this lighter purple here. So as you can see, there's a very large increase of those that were more likely to eat at home, which makes sense because a lot of restaurants were closed, and it just was, you had nothing else really to do except for cook. So definitely some good things that came out of quarantine that can be harder to transfer when our days start picking up and become busier. Alrighty. And then, so now we talked about the triumphs and things like some good things that came out of the pandemic, such as eating more fruits and vegetables and legumes, and cooking at home, connecting with families, all of those great things. Amanda is going to take it over this section, and she's going to cover the challenges and kind of how those can impact our day-to-day health. And take it away, Amanda.
Yes, hello everyone. Womp womp. I get to talk to you about the challenges after Kristen did such a good job talking to us about the triumphs. So let's get right into it. Perfect. So there was a lot going on during the pandemic, right? Life was so different for all of us than it had ever been before. And that probably created some barriers for you in your life. Maybe you had decreased access to fresh food because all the grocery stores were sold out, or you were going out less. You likely had more time at home when we were all in quarantine. And a lot of those barriers maybe led to some challenges with managing weight, like comfort eating, increasing our intake of alcohol or sugary foods, and maybe just because we were stuck at home, doing some more boredom snacking than usual. And let's face it, we had a lot less time as we were scrambling to figure out how to do life at home, a lot more stress living through a global pandemic, and a lot of uncertainty in our lives with all of those things. Those influences caused by the pandemic could have led to an increase in how much comfort food, processed and convenience foods we ate, how many sodas we drank, maybe how much alcohol we had per night, or how many high calorie beverages. And while those foods are really great in moderation, and there's absolutely room for them in every single diet, because food is more than fuel. Think about your Thanksgiving dinner, right? Food is social and it's emotional and it's comforting, but consistently intaking foods like the ones we just discussed on the previous slide can increase our risk for hypertension. So that's something we should maybe watch out for a little bit as a challenge with the pandemic. So what is hypertension? It's kind of a word that gets thrown around a lot. Maybe you've heard it at your doctor's office. Maybe you've heard it just on TV in random places. Hypertension is just a fancy word for consistently high blood pressure. So let's break down blood pressure a little bit more to understand what blood pressure even is. So if you're talking about blood pressure, you've probably seen your doctor maybe refer to it as two numbers. It looks like a fraction, maybe 120/80, which is an ideal blood pressure. So 120, or the number on top, is going to be your systolic blood pressure. And that's just a fancy way to say how much force your heart is using to push blood out of your heart. So how tight it's squeezing to push that out. And then that bottom number, 80, or whatever your reading is going to be your diastolic blood pressure. And that's how much force your heart uses to relax after pushing that blood out. I like to think of this as a biker traveling along. Maybe picture yourself on the bike if you want. Think about the force you have to use when you push the pedals of a bike. That's kind of like how our heart works. And if we're going uphill, you're going to have to use a lot more force all the time. And that's kind of like what being someone with hypertension is like. Your heart is working so hard all the time and using so much force. It's like they're riding uphill on a bike, working so hard. And that's going to make your heart really tired, right? So because of that, because our heart is working so hard when our blood pressure is high, if it's high all the time, it can really increase our risk for some other unsavory problems like heart disease, heart attacks, kidney disease, and strokes, which none of us want to have. Foods we buy pre-made or from restaurants often have much higher levels of dietary factors that can increase our blood pressure and lead to things like hypertension. This includes a lot of salt and sodium, not just the salt we shake on at the table, high levels of fat, and low levels of fiber. So if you're eating a lot of these foods all of the time, every day, maybe during the pandemic, then it could have really increased your risk for hypertension. So what can we do about that? What can we do to lower our risk for hypertension and keep our hearts nice and healthy? So we're going to go over 3 small steps you can take to increase your heart health in life. So the first of those is going to be engaging consistently in physical activity, whether you like doing TikTok dances, as Kristen was saying to us, or like going to our Zumba or walking classes that we offer at Wildcats, or shooting hoops with your partner or your kids, or lifting weights. It doesn't have to be going to the gym. If you're working out in some capacity, getting some physical activity in, it's a great way to help make your heart stronger and really protect you from things like hypertension. And then on the food side of things, as Christian mentioned, a lot of us started cooking at home more during the pandemic, and that's a really great tool we can use to protect our hearts. When you go to McDonald's or Chewy's or Pie Society, wherever you're getting dinner, you don't know what's going into the food. You don't have any control over that, right? You're just getting this finished product. And while that's great and super convenient, making meals at home can be helpful in protecting our hearts because we know how much of something we're putting in. We have control over the spices, the seasonings, the ingredients, all of that. And so going into that with the third note, when we're choosing foods, we can choose foods with more fiber and lower sodium. So fiber is going to be in our fruits and our vegetables and in our whole grain products like brown rice or quinoa or whole grain bread. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, can just be bread. And then our sodium, which is not just the salt that you shake on from the shaker. There's actually a lot of sodium in our prepared foods. And we're going to do a little activity right after this to talk about nutrition labels and how you can learn to start looking for those things on your own. But just for now, keep in mind that at any meal, you're maybe going to want to aim to eat less than 700 milligrams of sodium. It's just a good guideline to kind of help you lower your risk for something like hypertension. And then for fiber, you're going to aim to eat maybe 25 to 35 grams per day.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Amanda. So we're going to take all of Amanda's really great knowledge that she covered, and we're going to put those in and how we can learn and grow from these challenges. So like Amanda mentioned, one of the activities we're going to do is a little food label activity. So here I have 3 different food labels. One is from a homemade cheese whole wheat pizza. The middle is from a DiGiorno's, kind of one that you buy at in the freezer section at the grocery store. Again, it's going to be a cheese and then a self-rising crust pizza. And then lastly, we have Domino's, which again, it's a cheese pizza and then it's just a hand tossed. All of these pizzas were 12 inches, and then each serving size is an eighth of that recipe. So if we break it down here, we have the different calorie content for each of these pizzas. As you can see, the homemade cheese has slightly less calories than the other two. And in retrospect, these two are kind of similar. They're not like hugely different. But if we look here at the saturated fat mainly, we have the whole homemade pizza being significantly lower than these other two options here. And then with the sodium, I was actually surprised to see that it wasn't actually too much different, but just think about it, it's still pizza, so just something to keep in mind. I tried to do a food that we could all really relate to. And then the added sugars here, and the results are kind of inconclusive for the Domino's, but as you can see here, there's quite a bit of added sugars in the DiGiorno's here. But those are 3 different things that you can look at for a nutrition label to kind of tell the healthfulness of an item when you're looking at the more undesirable aspects. So you can look at saturated fat, sodium, and then specifically the added sugar section. And the total sugars may take in other carbohydrates that really aren't as pertaining to your health as the added sugars. We kind of want to avoid those as much as possible. And if we want to look at the other aspects, some things that are better for us, we can look at dietary fiber, as Amanda covered. As you can see here, there's significantly more fiber in the homemade pizza at 5.3 grams when compared to the other 2 pizzas. And then look at this bottom section here. This has generally iron, calcium, potassium, and phosphorus. Those are all going to be covered at the bottom, and then it has any other important vitamins or minerals that may be in that item. As you can see here, we have a lot more vitamin C and calcium in the homemade pizza when compared to the other 2 pizzas. So When we're looking at more undesirable things, we're going to look at the saturated fat, the sodium, and the added sugars. When we're looking at things that may make an item healthier, we're going to look for fiber, and then just this bottom panel down here. Alrighty, and then key takeaways from that, we're going to want to limit our saturated fat to less than 10%. So if we go back here, it's got this daily value percentage. So just something quick to look at. You just want to make sure that when saturated fat is over here, it's less than 10%. Right over here. And then again, the sodium less than 25%, and then the added sugar is less than 20%. And then also look for items that have a high amount or greater than 20% of fiber, iron, vitamin D and C, potassium, calcium, and phosphorus. And then that's going to be, if we look back at our labels, this bottom part right here. So items that have greater than 20% can be considered a good source or high quality of those items. Alrighty. And then earlier we had talked about adaptive cooking being a high mechanism of leading to more cooking at home. So I just wanted to cover what that is. So adaptive cooking is being more mindful in the moment. So using creative ways to use foods that you already have on hand. There are some really great apps to be able to do this. I think Super Cooker is the name of one of them, where you can just kind of input the ingredients that you have already on hand, and then it'll like input some recipes that you could try based on that, or just getting creative, start throwing things in a pot and see what happens. And then recognizing and challenging unhealthy emotional reactions. So identifying those unhealthy food choices and modifying eating behaviors based on that. So just recognizing like, hey, this item may not be as good for me, but now I have all this knowledge to be able to make healthier choices. So starting the next day, I'm going to start doing that, or even my next meal, I'm going to start making some more healthier food choices. And then taking those same principles and then aiming them to prevent adverse effects on the body, kind of like Amanda talked about with the hypertension, those items that we had in the pandemic that were high in sodium or fat could possibly lead to an increase in hypertension. So knowing what eating patterns that are healthy and that can lead to adverse health effects, and then how those unhealthy eating patterns can lead to adverse health effects. Alrighty, and then we have another little activity here for y'all, but it's going to require some food. So if anybody could just grab a piece of food they have nearby, it can be a cracker, it could be, I have a grape, it could be part of your lunch, whichever. I'll give you a couple of seconds. If you have a piece of food, you can go ahead and type that you're ready in the chat. Give you a little bit of time here. Amanda, what's your food?
I have a little baby pepper.
Ooh,
They're my favorite. I always get these at the store.
I like the world smells grape here. It kind of looks like a I don't know. Was everybody able to find a food available?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat yet. We'll give them more seconds.
Let's see if I can find a bigger grape. Grapes are so small. I bought seeded grapes the other day. That was a mistake. It was an accident though. Oops,
Patty has an orange with her. And Ellie is ready.
Fantastic.
You're probably good to go for it, Kristen. If you don't have a piece of food, you can always use your imagination for this.
And then you have access to these slides. So if you want to go back and try this with some food, as we will go over it now, and then you can definitely do that. So we got our food ready. We're going to sit down. I want y'all to turn off your phones, keep your computer on, because we're, you know, on the computer right now. But if you were doing this, kind of if this is something you want to put into daily practice, you would shut down all distractions, your phone, your email, your computer, everything like that. So just kind of be you and the food, okay? So relax, take a deep breath. All right, get in touch with your senses. What does the food feel like? So mine's a grape, so it's kind of, I don't know, rubbery. What does it smell like? Take a sniff of it. Doesn't really smell like anything, but I bet if I cut it open and were to take a bite of it, it would smell sweet. And then does it look appealing to eat? I'd say so. It's a nice purple grape. And I'm excited to eat it, honestly. Okay, and then we're gonna identify any things about the food that we may not like. Sometimes grapes can be a little smushy, but nope, this one's nice and firm. All right, now let's go ahead and take a bite of the food. All right, so everybody take a bite of your food. All right, I just took one bite. Excuse me, sorry. So let it sit in your mouth. Savor it. What kind of flavors are we getting with our foods? I know we had an orange. I know we had a couple other people that had foods. If you want to go ahead and comment in the chat what kind of initial tastes you're getting from your food. I know mine was sweet, and then the aftertaste, the sweet kind of died off and it was a little bit bitter.
Patty said her orange was very juicy and it smelled wonderful.
Beautiful.
And Ellie let us know that, oh, she just ate, so she can't eat her biscuit right now, which is okay.
It's okay. So now let's take it slow and reflect on the eating experience after each bite. So you're gonna want to walk through this loosely after each bite. So really just slow down, connect with your food, kind of bring it back to really just being mindful about what we're eating and being aware of our senses and the smells and what it feels like, just really connecting with food again. And mindful eating isn't really about weight loss, but more people find they eat smaller and have healthier meals when practice mindful eating. And this is a really great way to just kind of just be more aware of what you're eating. And if you want to learn more about this, I know Wellcats is posting a series specifically on this in January. So if this is something you're interested on and want to learn more, you can come to that talk in January. Alrighty, and then here's just some quick tips for rekindling our old habits using My Plate, which is this right here. So it's the USDA's wellness healthful eating pattern. So we have green and red, which are fruits and vegetables. You want to keep it towards half a plate. And then we have our grains, our proteins, which is the purple, and then the blue, which is our dairy. So if you'd like to learn more about MyPlate and how it can be applied to you, you can go to myplate.gov. And again, that's just the USDA's recommendation for a healthful eating pattern. Some other quick tips that you could do is cut fruits and vegetables as soon as you get home and then store them in clear containers to utilize more fruit and vegetable intake. And then if you have them already ready to go, you're more likely to eat them. And especially if they're more accessible than other snacks that may be high in the sodium or saturated fat in that category. So if you have them ready to go, you're more likely to munch on those. And then that goes along with the next point, have more healthful items on hand versus soda. You can do sparkling water. You can have crunchy fruits and vegetables. Like Amanda had her pepper. Those always give a nice satisfying crunch, similar to maybe a chip. You can get that nice crunchiness. And then you can do those with dip like you would with chips as well. And then, as Amanda talked about, having more whole wheat items increases the fiber content of an item. So by switching to those whole wheat pastas, breads, rices, you have a higher fiber and nutrient content versus the white alternatives. And then another like fun, easy visual that you can use to rekindle your old habits or form new habits is using a habit tracker to visualize your progress. So this right here is one that I like to use. So you have the days here, and then you can have write down your habit. And every time you do that item, like I had my 3 vegetables today, give it a nice little check. It's just kind of a satisfying way to go about the month, to be able to look back and like, wow, I actually stuck with this, or I wasn't really as motivated as I thought. I can use this to kind of push forward into the next month and reevaluate from there. And like Josh mentioned in the beginning, Wellcats offers many different possibilities for success. We have fitness classes, so we have yoga, Zumba, stretching, walking, and kickboxing. And here's a lovely picture of our attendees of our walking class. And then we also have cooking classes. Our next one is Friday, November 19th. It's going to be a Thanksgiving theme. So we're going to do Friendsgiving. We're going to have lots of delicious Thanksgiving foods, and we're going to need your help to cook all of it. So be sure to attend. And we have the lovely Miss Patty here showing off one of the items she made in our cooking class. And then we also offer one-on-one nutritional counseling. If that's something that you're interested, you can contact Josh at worklife@texasstate.edu to go ahead and schedule one of those meetings. They're about an hour long to be able to help you reach your goals, make goals, and then reach those goals. So that's really what we're here for, to help you with your nutritional counseling. Thank you guys so much for coming. This has been really awesome. And I hope that you were able to learn a lot. Do we have any questions that we can answer for you? And then also I see here in the chat, we have our WellCats Educational Series course description. So if you wanted to go ahead and sign up for any of the upcoming WellCats Educational Series, you can go ahead and check out that events link, or if you wanted to look at the description for our January one where we talk about mindful eating, that'll be listed there as well.
Oh, I don't have the January one up yet, but the December one is there for sure.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Ooh, we have a good question in the chat. So if you cut up apples, what do you use to keep them from turning brown? So I use a little bit of lemon juice, or let them just soak like in a mixture of lemon juice and water. That generally keeps them from not turning brown, at least for like a day or two. Do you have anything else that you do, Amanda?
Not usually. I'm a cut up an apple as I go gal. I cut up most of my other ones, but apples, it always makes me get the ickies when they're brown. That's my little.
Definitely that acidity will help from it not turning as fast. So
yeah,
if you let them soak too, just for a little while. But apples are a great one to just have on hand with some peanut butter and a quick snack to go to.
I don't have a question, but thank you for sharing the label. I've always wanted to learn how to read those, and so I really appreciate that.
Of course, yeah, thank you. I'm glad that was helpful.
that's definitely the kind of stuff we can work on in our one-to-one
Yeah.
nutrition counseling sessions too, if anyone is interested in anything like that.
Most definitely. Or even for that matter, like other like shopping tips or other label things, like a lot of things are like gluten-free or items like that, just understanding just other marketing and label techniques.
Yeah. There's some thank yous in the chats and agreement about good info, but I'm not seeing any other questions. So if anyone has a question, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and I will be sending out a course evaluation here in a few minutes. So if you could please take some time to share your thoughts. I know that these lovely ladies would really appreciate their feedback. So
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.